Hello, everyone, and welcome to View to an All-Star. And today's special guest is Richard Askam. He is the co-founder of Print Island and DigiLink. And Richard, you're involved in so many aspects of the business, and you've established yourself as, I believe, the standard for a master of ceremonies and interviewer in our modern day industry of podcasting, etc. I was trying to think of someone that I could compare you to as the so and so of this industry, and I couldn't. So I couldn't help but wonder what was your trajectory to start doing things like this, and was there anyone or anything in particular that kind of influenced you? Because you just seem to be such a natural at what you do.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, Mark. It's an absolute pleasure to join you today. That's a really interesting question, actually, and I don't think anybody's ever asked me that before. I would say the answer to how I got into this was luck. How I'd stayed there. You know, my dad always used to say to me that luck gets you in the room and skill keeps you in the room. And you'll notice a thread running through most of my rationale, which is my dad used to say, and he was a classically wise man in that regard. Sadly, no longer with us. But yeah, a bit of luck. Some of the things that I'd done in my past life, the various campaigns and brands that I'd worked with led me to being invited to speak about them on stage. Strangely enough, at a D-Scoop event in the UK about 10 years ago now, 10, 12 years ago. Never done any public speaking. The only stand-up speaking I'd done at all was the eulogy for my father at his funeral. And I figured that that's the hardest thing I'm going to ever have to do in my life. So everything else has to be easier. So when they said, "Would you come and do this event?" I went, "Okay." And because I guess I was talking about the things that I'd done, I didn't have to learn it because I already knew it. I had to find a way of framing it so that people could hear it and understand it and listen to it. And I was told a great piece of advice once, Mark, that the only job of the speaker is to be heard. So you have to find a way that the audience wishes to listen to you. I guess I'm quite lucky in that humor flows through my veins, and so I will always find a way of making people laugh if I can, because ultimately they then relax, and if they relax, then I relax, and then everybody's relaxed. And so I didn't particularly model myself on anybody. I don't particularly still to this day. I just tried to be myself, and I think the world that we live in now is putting a greater value and emphasis on authenticity. So if you are who you are with everybody you ever meet, then nobody can say, "Oh, well, he wasn't like that with me." I'm the same in every room, wherever I go. And if people don't like it, they don't book me again.
Yeah.
But I will never not be me. So
Right.
I think in that regard, it's taken me 59 years to work it out, Mark. I'm a slow learner, clearly. But I think hopefully, what I do and the way that I do it is enough for most people.
Absolutely. And you couldn't help but jog a popular phrase in my memory, in my mind, talking about authenticity that I can't recall who said the quote, but be yourself. Everybody else is ta already taken. Right. So,
Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
and
I like
yeah,
that.
and that's great. And you're right. That's not only a something that is helps your voice, any individual's voice, whether it's a business or a person, be heard today, authenticity, but it's a good thing, right? It's who needs the opposite of that, right? We there's just too much of that built into technology, too many things we have to decipher if it's real or not. So authentic people, you're right, stand out, and I appreciate that, and it comes through very well with you. So on that note, then Print Island. I loved the concept when I first heard about it from Timothy Mitchell, I think initially before I knew you. And I liked it so much that I contacted him and volunteered. Whenever you're ready, I want to be on this because I love this concept. But so maybe you can give the audience a little bit of background on how you entered this kind of crowded field. A lot of usual suspects doing usual things, but at the same time, I feel like the door was open for something different. How did you see all of that, and what's really the foundation of Print Island?
Well, the foundation goes back to 2017. and I was invited to come and do a speech. And at the time, I was very busy coming to print events, talking about personalization. Obviously, all the things that I'd done in my business career were still hot news. And some of them still are 10 years later. But at the time, I was literally going from event to event, talking about personalization. And the one thing I realized and recognized quite quickly in the print industry was a willingness to collaborate, but less of a willingness to communicate, or certainly communicate with the outside world beyond the boundaries of the industry. So I came up with this speech and I called it The Amazing Adventures on Print Island. And I drew a map. I had a friend of mine draw an island, a map of an island, and every reference point on that island was an print industry reference. And I was effectively poking a finger at the industry and saying, look, you're all brilliant. What you do is amazing. You all talk to each other. That's fabulous. But you've never left the island. And so my advice to you as an external, I don't come from the print industry, but I'm a user of it and a voyeur of it, if you like, is build a boat, build a raft, get off the island and tell other people how good you are, because then that's how your industry will grow. So that was a speech that I did in Brussels in 2017. Fast forward to 2025, problem was still the same. Industry was still brilliant. Industry was still collaborative, innovative, all the things that you want from an industry, but still quite rubbish at communicating that brilliance beyond its natural borders. So the world has changed from doing speeches at events into more podcasting, into more, COVID changed everything
Yep.
in that regard. So I brought it back, and Print Island became really a vehicle to have conversations, real conversations, the sort of conversations that you have at the bar or on the plane, or whilst you're waiting for some transport to and from the conference center, not necessarily at the conference center.
Right.
And I wanted to be able to express those conversations as widely as possible. And in many ways, Mark, my goal was quite simple, which was to turn Print Island into Spotify for print. So if you wanted to learn something, if you wanted to hear something, if you wanted to find out something for free, go to Print Island, and the experts that are there, the opinions that are there will all be different and all wide and all varied, as music is. But you can choose the sort of music that you want to listen to, or at the very least, the sort of music that you've never heard before and want to give a chance to. So it's a different way of trying to solve the same time-honored problem of communicating with the rest of the world, not just the world within the industry. And you made the point about, there's a lot of media outlets still doing the same thing and still doing it the same way. And which is, fine. That's what I would call the legacy media. And in the same way that there's a legacy industry, so, but where we're going with Print Island, I think is where the world needs to be in terms of the way that we all talk to each other now, using the language that we talk about, that authenticity that spoke about before. And really, it's a vehicle for many contributors, not just me. I live on the island in the lighthouse, as you will have probably seen, but there are many locations around the island that
Yep.
contributors are on. Timothy Mitchell runs the beach bar, for example.
Yep.
But it's a way and a vehicle and a construct, if you like, that I think has landed in the right place at the right time for an industry that knows that it needs to change, doesn't necessarily know how, but is willing to collaborate with somebody, in this case, Print Island, to find that way forward. So yeah, I think we're just in the right place at the right time, Mark.
Yeah, it's just a brilliant construct, I think, Richard. And it's so interesting to me over the years about the print industry, and you summarized it in its current state that as a group we like to communicate, we like to collaborate, but we don't necessarily like to communicate. And if you really think about it, it's impossible to do one without the other, right? Pretty hard to collaborate with someone if you're not communicating, right?
But
But
the the problem that I saw, Mark, and that's the interesting point, is that the belief is that they do communicate, but they're only communicating with each other, and which is fine, and that's great, by the way. I'm not criticizing that, but if you seriously want to grow, or more importantly, you want to engage the next generation into this world, then you have to talk to strangers too. You can't just talk to friends.
yeah, exactly. You just prompted another quote I used in one of my articles that I wrote several years ago. Now, of course, I can't remember who it was from again, but the problem with communication is the fact that some people think it's already in place when it hasn't, right? And And yeah, that's not limited to the print industry, obviously, but I do agree completely that it's a very collaborative industry. It's been built that way. We've had to be collaborative because there's so many links in our supply chain to get from an idea through marketing and eventually into some type of design and creative process, and then an operational process with print, and then all the selling and things like that that have to happen along the way. A lot of collaboration. It's not a very closed door or
But
narrow
it's
business.
that collaboration that gives me great heart that the problem that I'm highlighting with external communication can be solved. Because if you've got a willingness to collaborate, then inherently you've got a willingness to communicate. All I'm trying to do with Print Island is change the focus, change the direction of that communication. So, these people that I'm describing, there isn't one person. It is an industry that collectively likes to meet. That's why trade shows are so popular. I don't know another industry that has as many trade shows around the world each year. And they like to meet each other and talk, and that's great. But then the people outside the trade show have no idea what they're doing. So that
Yeah.
brilliance, which we're all affected by as consumers, by the way, everything around us is affected by print. If we can communicate that, then guess what? The doors will be knocked on, by more and more customers around the world.
Yeah, yeah, great, just great thought there, Richard. And so as a nice follow up on that note, for for Print Island, you are one of the original All Stars, although unfortunately you couldn't join us in person last year, and thankfully you will this year. But how has being an All Star had any impact on your involvement with the expo, with your opportunities for Print Island? What has that meant, if anything, and how has that changed anything as far as what Print Island's planning to do kind of going forward this year and even at the expo this year?
Well, I should explain that I was one of the original All Stars, and I'm quite unique in the fact that I was the only one that couldn't come.
Yeah.
So I had a medical issue with one of my eyes last year, and I was advised not to fly. And when a doctor says don't go on a plane, you don't go on a
No.
plane. So I watched from afar. So I'm really looking forward to being able to get out there this year and join in the fun because I gather that you had some fun.
Oh
I've heard
yeah.
stories. Oh yeah. I'm really grateful to be part of the All-Star lineup. And again, this year, I think it was a brilliant idea that the Printing United Alliance sort of found to almost create a tribe, create a group, a gang, that are like-minded people, that do have a voice in the industry, and we shouldn't be shy to say that. It's a great thing to be able to broadcast the good things that happen in the industry to far and wide and off the island as well. So I'm really looking forward to coming to the expo this year for two reasons. One, it's Vegas, so let's leave that over there for a second.
Yeah.
But two, I think it's just to participate in the very thing that I've just described that we should do more of, which is collaborate and communicate. And if we get those two C's right, those two C words, the C words that people like, then we can pretty much do anything. And I'm so impressed with the approach that Printing United have taken to having this group of external. I'm going to use the word influencers. I don't mean that cleverly, but just people that can broadcast, take the message further and wider. Because it's very few organizations that trust externals to do that. Everybody gets a little bit guarded. Everybody, I'll collaborate if you collaborate. You go first, and it's not really how that sort of is supposed to work. So to have the trust put in us as a group and the faith put in us as a group to be able to convey the message in the way that we see it. We're not given a script here, and we're not saying what we've been told to say. We're just being asked by an organization to spread the word and do it the way that we do it. And we all do it slightly differently. We all have slightly different audiences. Of course, there is some overlap. It's a relatively small world. But I think what I'm looking forward to most, Mark, is Vegas, fun, and collaboration and communication. I think if we get that right, then it'll be another brilliant year.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And it was really because obviously you have a lot of you refer to the group as influencers, and that's part of what we are. But at the same time, most of us are driving some type of business ourselves. There's a lot of type A type personality built into everybody, right? Just to be able to do that. And you just, when you get a group like that together, you never really know how that chemistry is going to take place. And so I think we were really all quite surprised, and how well it's worked out. And it's really a tribute to the people that put it together, like you said. I think they did a brilliant job of it. Just the idea itself and who they chose and the variable backgrounds that everybody has. It's been a great fit. So for people who will be attending Printing United Expo this year, and for those who are thinking about it, that should be coming, that are watching this, right? Where will we find Richard and Print Island? What's your agenda look like? I know it's still, 3 or 4 months away, but what does that look like? Do you have any plans for what you would you'd like to do this year, and what should people be looking for from you guys?
Well, you won't miss me, Mark, because I'm 6'5" and I'll be wearing a baseball shirt. So, the chances are I'm going to be easy to spot in those halls. But the plan, I think, from a Print Island perspective, is we're going to have our own podcasting space, which is going to be great. We'd like to do something a little bit different and actually do. We're going to trial it in a couple of weeks' time at D-Scoop and see if it works. But we'd quite like to do the sunset session. So at the end of every day, get some people in, a couple of beers, sit down and chill out and talk about what the day actually meant. Because I think if you're not careful, and my point about authenticity sits through this, if you're not careful, you can become the marketing brochure
Yeah.
for the event or for the people behind the booths. And that's not what we're there to do. We're there to talk to human beings. So we want to talk as human beings first and foremost. And what was good, what was less good, what did you enjoy, what did you not enjoy? All the things that if you get home from these events and your wife or your partner says, "So how was the event?" And you go, "Oh, well, I did this and that was great and this was fun and what have you." But you're off the clock. So I want the Print Island sessions, the sunset sessions at Las Vegas this year to be the real stories from the real people from the real day that they had. And then I think we'll have some great authentic content, full permission of Printing United to do that because ultimately, they want people to know what the show was like if they didn't go. But even if you do go, then my view will be slightly different to your view, slightly different to somebody else's view. So it's subjective, it should be, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, that's great. I'm looking forward to it as well. And you hit on a couple of good points. I just want to reinforce. Earlier, you said we're not given any script, or we're not channeled to be promoting this in any way. I never really thought. I wonder if people think that, but when you said that, it made me wonder. And hopefully, people don't realize that. And clearly, that's not the case. We are a group of individuals with our own intellectual property, so to speak, right, of who we are and what we do. We've had been nothing but encouraged to just do exactly that. And the guidance has been just very broad in general, right? Here's the kind of ideas, or here's the thought, and you guys go out and do it in your own way and however you do it. And nobody's ever, suggested anything differently to me. So that's, I think, that goes back to the authenticity of what the All-Star team is it's just, yes, we're a group, but we're all still operating as our individual selves, with the one thing in common, that Printing United is supposed to be an industry under one roof. And I just love that concept. And what you're talking about, the communication and collaboration, is such an important part of that, Richard. And I'm just so glad and impressed with what you guys have been doing at Print Island. You have built a great team there. I think you have a good concept. It keeps getting better each one I watch. And just wish you all the best. And I know that you're going to be a big difference maker with you being there. Isn't it funny? I never met you. I had no idea you were 6'5". So now
There
I'm
you go. Everybody always says that.
yeah,
Everybody says, "Oh, you're a lot taller than you appear on screen," and you think, "I'm sitting down." Why would I not be?
yeah,
I'm genuinely looking forward to it. And just to pick up on one thing as well, Mark, that there's an old notion that for somebody to win, somebody else has to lose. And I don't think that's the case in the print industry. And I
no,
can't make it more plain than if everybody works together and collaborates together authentically with their own personal self, then we'll all win anyway. So,
yeah,
when I hear people sort of bemoaning the industry or bemoaning Print Island, or they see it as competition. We're not competition. We are there to broadcast the thing that everybody wants broadcast, and that's I keep saying Spotify for print. I can't think of a better analogy for what Print
Wow.
Island is there for. So if everybody uses it, everybody wins.
Yeah, I love that. I love the Spotify analogy. And on that note, is there any favorite music era that you like? Because I build a little walk-on music with each of these previews. So you want to maybe put me into the right
Well,
direction there?
Well, I'm going to stay on brand here and on message because I'm a big fan of the Killers, and the Killers
Ah,
are, of course, from Las Vegas, Nevada. So I'm gonna say Mr. Brightside because I am quite cheerful. So Mr. Brightside would be the track that I would choose to walk on any stage to, Mark.
okay. Okay. Then consider it done. Richard, thank you so much for your time and your professionalism and what you're contributing to the industry. And I feel honored that you were here to spend a little time with us. And I look forward to meeting you finally in person at the Printing United Expo this year in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
Thanks
no,
again.
thanks, Mark. The honor was all mine today. Thank you.